In this report, I will discuss why some of you may be able to retire early on $1,352 US per month in Cozumel, Mexico. I first came to the island of Cozumel about 30 years ago in 1992. I was staying in Playa del Carmen and decided to take the ferry over for the day. It was a much smaller, quaint village at the time. But I really loved the colonial era feel of the city center. So a few years later, in around 1996, when I booked a week in Playa del Carmen, I booked a second week at the Iberostar all-inclusive on Cozumel. That was a lovely week. It was a more intimate week than the one spent in Playa del Carmen that year. One of my favorite memories was renting a scooter for the day and completely circling the island. I was surprised how untouched the east-facing beaches were at the time. Back then, I don't think I saw more than 20 people on the whole east side of the island. The east side was untouched white sand beaches. I'm happy to report that the east side beaches remain almost the same still today. On this trip, we probably saw 200 people instead of 20. So the east side of Cozumel hasn't seen the growth or massive tourism that you see in other parts of Quintana Roo, such as Cancun and Playa del Carmen. I've probably been back to this part of Mexico at least 10 or 15 times over the last 30 years. I've learned many tricks about slow traveling since the last time I was in Cozumel. I now know to stay away from the tourist areas to get a more authentic Mexican experience. We even found a locals neighborhood we would live in if we decided to retire early in Cozumel. I've circled the area on a map if you're curious. On the circled area of the map at this time, I would be able to rent a one-bedroom apartment for around 7,000 pesos or $350 per month, plus utilities. Plus, we found tacos for $1 US and empanadas for 50 cents and liters of fresh squeezed juices without sugar for $1 US. Laundry was 14 pesos per kilo or 32 cents per pound, washed, dried, and folded. I explained how pristine the eastern beaches are in Cozumel. The only downside of living in Cozumel is that our favorite beach, San Martin, is 22 kilometers or 13.2 miles from the quaint little non-tourist neighborhood we loved in Cozumel. That's about a 25-minute drive. For that reason, it would probably be our second favorite place to retire early for cheap in the state of Quintana Roo, Mexico. Make sure to subscribe so you'll find out our favorite places or favorite place to retire cheap in the state of Quintana Roo, Mexico. There's no need to take notes as you listen. I'll provide a link to everything I talk about at the end of this video. Okay, Cozumel, Mexico, cost of living. Chung and I were in Cozumel for 7 nights and spent $460 US. That includes ferries to and from the island, rent, restaurants, tours, everything. If you multiplied that by 4 weeks, it cost us about $1,840 US to live in Cozumel for a month. The problem with that calculation is that it's probably too high for us. It includes ferry rides both ways, which were 1,000 pesos or $50. These are for the two of us. 2 scooter rentals at 800 pesos or $20 each, and 630 pesos or $32 to enter the Echo Park at the south part of the island on the scooter tour. But if you subtract that tourism expense of $120 US from our $460 US we spent for the week, it would cost just $338 US per week to live in Cozumel. And so the 4 weeks at $338 of just living expenses would be $1,352 US per month to live in Cozumel. And that's how I came up with that number. We also use the below table of estimated living expenses. Of course, that is just for food and accommodations. Here's another way to compute living expenses. There's photos and an example Airbnb that you could rent on the island for $5.26 per month at the time of this post. Of course, you should be able to beat this price if you live like a local with the locals outside the tourist areas. You could also pay double or triple depending on what you decide where you decide to live, how much space you would like, and if you decide to live in the tourist areas. To get a great deal for a month or longer without paying the fees shown that add up to that 522 number, just book a place for a few days and walk around the areas that you like in the non-tourist areas and look for rent signs. I explain how to get the best deals in a post here, link provided, how I find the best apartments for cheap around the world. Feel free to click that and watch it. This means you're going to have to rent whatever you can for a few days online and then walk around the neighborhoods to get the kind of price I'm talking about, and deal directly with landlords to get rates like we pay. Even if you're only able to get another landlord in the neighborhood to discount the cleaning fee and service fee for a long-term lease, and the Airbnb I'm showing you here, you would be paying around $460 US per month. That is about $15 a day, including utilities. And I use that in the table below to come up with another estimate for the cost of living. But don't expect to get that online. You'll have to walk around to get it. The high-end restaurants in Cozumel average around 180 pesos or $9 for an entree in the tourist areas. A local family-owned restaurant starts around 80 pesos or $4 US. And you'll see food cart type vendors starting for as little as 15 pesos or 75 cents US in the local neighborhoods. One of our favorite restaurants had empanadas for 10 pesos, which is 50 cents. With regard to local transportation, colectivos or shared minivans are 8 pesos, which is about 40 cents US. Taxis are about 30 pesos around the downtown area, or $1.50 US. And there's no other practical transportation within the city. Since our favorite beaches are 25 minutes away, you won't want to pay a taxi, but you can get a colectivo, link provided, once the COVID scare is over. Probably shouldn't get in a minivan with a bunch of people unless they're all wearing masks while COVID is still going on. Thus, a bare bones cost of living estimate that includes rent, 2 meals a day, and taxis as local transportations along with colectivos is shown on the table on the webpage. You can come visit, but you're looking at somewhere running from about $800 to $1,300 a month, and according to this table, to live here in Cozumel if you stay out of the tourist areas. And there's a free report link provided. You can click to see how the table works. Now, the above table estimated cost of living is for 1 month for one person as a temporary visitor. It only includes, as I say, the rent, 2 meals a day, and local transportations. And there's a link here to Numbeo. You can add anything to the cost of living for a month and that you find in the table that you spend money on in your home country to get a more complete understanding. But never move anywhere until you have visited first personally to verify the living costs for your lifestyle and needs. I'm not guaranteeing these prices. These are just my notes and estimates from the time of my visit and this post. Your costs will drastically be drastically different depending on lifestyle and how long it's been since this post. Okay, best area to stay in Cozumel. I like being in Mexico when I'm in Mexico, so my favorite area of Cozumel is a non-touristy area shown in the map here, link provided. It was all locals living in the area in this. Plus there was sidewalks running through the middle of the neighborhoods where cars couldn't go, so you saw other people walking and bike riding and kids playing in all the walkways instead of cars zooming by on busy streets. People come to Cozumel for the beaches, scuba, snorkeling, and a relaxed lifestyle. But in these sorts of more traditional Mexican neighborhoods, you are a 20-minute scooter ride from my favorite beach, as I said. That's possibly why those east side beaches continue to remain so pristine. You can't live over there. You can only visit. So maybe that will protect those beaches for future generations. Okay, cheapest flights to Cozumel. We almost always get our cheapest flights on Skyscanner, link provided. They have a web crawler that's constantly looking for the best prices around the world. And we found our flights into Cancun from there, but also check for Cozumel on Skyscanner. Cozumel livability factors. Here are some of the factors I think about when I consider each place for retirement potential. After I discuss each factor, I'll assign an overall desirability score to Cozumel. Walkability. If I were to live in Cozumel in the unpretentious neighborhood shown in red above, I would be able to walk to restaurants, small fruit and vegetable markets, and the 2 large grocery stores, or as I call them, expat grocery stores. If you have too many groceries to walk home, you could get a taxi back to your home in that neighborhood for about 50 pesos, or $2.50. And so you could avoid having a car in that case. If I bought anything, I would buy a scooter, and it would be easier to park and easier to get around, cheaper on gas. And I'd probably buy even a used one for $500. But anyway, internet, hi. We had no issues with the internet speeds in Cozumel. It worked so well, I never even remembered to run the ATT speed test on the router. Food, I would say medium. We found a bunch of great Mexican food restaurants with fair pricing outside the tourist areas, but there were not many foreign food choices. So if you're a fan of foreign foods, I would rate the food in Cozumel as medium or even low. You may need to cook or learn to cook like I have in order to meet all your food requirements if you are going to live in a smaller town like this. Okay, weather, I would say medium. Cozumel can get quite hot in the off season, and hurricane season can be extreme on islands. That's probably one of the reasons the east side of Cozumel has very little development. It's the hurricane side. The cooler season is December through February, when nighttime lows average about 70 Fahrenheit or 21 Celsius, and daytime highs average about 82 Fahrenheit or 28 Celsius, and that's the high season for tourism also. The hot season is April through October, when nighttime lows average about 78 Fahrenheit and 26 Celsius, and daytime highs average 88 Fahrenheit or 31 Celsius. But it's not unusual for days to reach the highs, 90s, in April through October, so don't let those averages fool you. The rainy season is May through November, with most of the rain falling in September and October. The hurricane season is June through November, but it's focused mainly in the center part of those months. Things to do, medium. If you enjoy the beach and water sports, you should be fine. If you're a cultural lover, I would say medium or even low. Cozumel has options for deep sea fishing, snorkeling, scuba, kite surfing, and windsurfing in terms of the beach sports. Social considerations, I would say medium. Cozumel is not the best place in the world to be single. Life here is pretty much centered around the beach and is too transient in general for relationships to develop naturally. You want to learn Spanish if you decide to settle here so you can integrate better with the locals, and that will help with your dating. Expats, medium. If you like hanging out with expats, you'll find them through various Facebook pages, 3 of them here, links provided. New ones pop up all the time, so make sure to search on Facebook, Cozumel Expats. Facebook's a good place to go if you have a very specific or odd question I've not answered here or in other videos. Real estate. Property starts here for around $100,000, but you can easily spend $300,000 US for the properties being often offered to foreigners. But I never recommend buying until you have lived somewhere at least 3 years. I have a special link here to better understand why I don't recommend buying outside your home country. I give you all of the eye-opening reasons. Okay, Cozumel desirability score. I would say medium. Cozumel's One of my favorite places in the state of Quintana Roo, Mexico. Many people think of Cozumel as a small island where all of the ships stop when they're sailing around the Caribbean, and that's true. But the area of town where the ships cause chaos is fairly small in comparison to the size of the island. There are several neighborhoods where you can live a fairly simple life with minimum contacts with the tourists arriving by cruise ship or ferry. Plus even the evening when the last ferry and the last cruise ship departs, even the central area of Cozumel becomes more peaceful. Since it feels like an island life if you stay out of the crazy zones, I'm ranking it medium for retirement, only because of the limited cultural experience. If I was looking for a simple island life and beach, I would rate it high. Cozumel facts and history. The Mayan people settled the island in about 1000 AD after death. There are a number of ruins on the island, the largest being San Gervasio. The Spanish showed up here in 1518 and were received peacefully by the Mayans of Cozumel. The Mayans remained friendly even after the Spanish destroyed temples, continuing to supply the Spanish with food and water for their ship for ocean voyages. 10,000 Mayans lived here when Spanish crew members brought smallpox to the island in 1520. By 1570, only about 300 Mayans were alive that survived the smallpox outbreak. By about 1688, most of the remaining inhabitants of coastal towns and cities and islands of what is now called the Quintana Roo, including Cozumel, were moved to inland towns such as Chimax to avoid the scourge of pirate raids that were going on around the Caribbean at that time. Scuba diving, charter fishing, and tourism are the main attractions for Cozumel. The coral reefs on the west side of the island are magnificent, some of the best in the world, mainly because they're protected from the ocean by the island's natural geography. The west side coral reefs are. The east side takes the brunt of the hurricanes. Thanks for listening. This is Dan of Vagabond Awake. Again, the YouTube channel for Vagabond Buddha. Please like, comment, or subscribe. And we have retired cheap reports all over the world. And come check out our membership. Thanks for watching my video. Have a great day. Click the link in the notes below this YouTube video to get a copy of all the resources described in this video and a free copy of my ebook, How I Fired My Boss and Traveled the World. And while you're there, check out our 80 retired cheap reports and the course that teaches you how to make money as you travel the world.